Hi, Drew. Can you hear us?
Sorry, my mute wasn't turning off. Good morning, folks.
We just did a round of introductions for our new board member. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. We've met on the interview. Hi, Drew Hart. I'm a board member who's been on the board for just coming up on 4 years.
Good to see you again, Drew.
You too.
Did you do the land acknowledgement?
No, I just thought we'd just do
That's
introductions.
awesome. Great. I was gonna ask you all what your last meal would be, but
Last meal before dying.
well, like
It's really dark.
Here, everybody.
I'm really
They're all.
You know, like
Everybody will do on death row.
okay. Maybe I
And like the last thing you ate?
no, like
You actually do mean that?
no, like a different comfort meal. I guess I didn't mean it as last meal. Okay, that can
Buried or cremated.
Okay, well, it's a good thing I wasn't here. So I thought you just did names and whatnot. Oh man, I'm not crying. The dry air. Anyway, this is a mess. Okay, so as always, we will open with a land acknowledgement. We recognize and respect that New Westminster is on the unceded and unsurrendered land of the Halkomelem speaking peoples. We acknowledge that colonialism has made invisible their histories and connections to the land. As a city, we are learning and building relationships with the people whose lands we are on. I think this is particularly noteworthy today, just as we look ahead to our strategic plan update and the work that we still have to do as a department around, our efforts around reconciliation, decolonization, and building relationships with the nation. So good to keep in mind. Adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes, additions? Drew, good.
In the last meeting minutes, my name is not on it.
Oh, perfect. We can pull that from consent in a second. Okay, can someone move adoption of the agenda? Second, favor, all opposed, carried. Consent. So Heather, I will put you to pull that minutes off consent for that change. Anyone else want to pull things off consent? Mary.
Can I pull 2.1, please? I have two questions. It's the overtime report.
2.3.
Oh, is it 2.3?
2.1 is the minutes.
Oh, then 2.3. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Let me just.
Can I pull 2.10A?
Yes, you can. Oh, yes. Okay, I am going through. I'm going to pull the operations support 2.6 and 2.10 generally. And that. Yes, Kelsey.
Sorry, can I pull 2.5, please?
This is like a city council move. We'll just pull everything off consent. Too bad. And I will also pull 2.10D, the statement on the end of deeper. Okay, I think that so we have pulled 2.1, 2.3, 2.5, 2.6, 2.10A and D. Everyone else good? If so, someone move adoption of consent. Approval of
So
consent.
moved.
Second, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Great. 2.1, Heather, there was just a
Yeah, just
mistake
the,
in the minutes.
I was at the meeting and it was just not documented that I was.
Okay, perfect. Daisy, did you catch
Yeah,
that?
no, I'll do those. I'll correct those, sorry.
Thank you, Daisy.
Can someone move adoption of the minutes as corrected?
Someone second.
Second. All in favor?
Well, I was reacting to Heather.
All opposed, carried. 2.3, monthly report on overtime. Mary.
Thank you. I just have two questions. Perhaps this has been on the report before and I missed it, but I just wanted, and I know Jacqueline's not here, but this is sort of a financial question. what does, I think I know, but what does including retro accrual mean? Does anyone know what that means under 2025 actual?
I can take a stab at it.
Okay.
I believe that will be Jacqueline factoring in potential wage increases for 2025, and we'd have to go back and
They would be
members get retro
retroactive,
not only
yeah,
on their standard pay, but also
Yeah.
on any overtime that was incurred.
okay,
So I think she's factoring that
so
in.
it's included in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's, I thought it might be that, but I just wanted to confirm. I didn't think I had seen that note before, so I just wanted to clarify that. And then, so is this, so this is then suggesting that if I've got the numbers right, is our overtime pretty high then for 2025 as being over budget? And can you speak to that?
Yes, the overtime overall, and Jacqueline, total overtime budget that we have is looking like it's going to be about $134,000 over budget for 2025.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about this before. Some of the overtime is a little bit easier to mitigate, i.e. Call out specific for shifts. But a lot of the call out is beyond our control. It's call out for major crime investigations. It's court overtime on days off. It's training time. We are contractually, the members and ourselves are contractually obligated for members, sworn members, to provide 4 training days or to attend 4 training days a year on their days off. They get paid at straight time. That's another driving factor. I would say in 2025, we did struggle with staffing issues. It's still a bit of a challenge. And I was going to talk a little bit about it later on, but the recruiting team is doing an amazing job. We brought in 2 exempt or experienced police officers in January. There are 6 more that are in the pipeline to come into the organization. They'll all go to patrol. This will allow us to ensure patrol is staffed up adequately, because you'll see here one patrol ship B-Watch was $88,000 over its specific budget.
Mm-hmm.
So it ebbs and flows, and some of them are actually under budget. So we really hope that's going to help, and we anticipate a significant increase in our ability to recruit and to train cadets in the police academy. So overall, I think once we see our staffing numbers go up, that will mitigate the overtime somewhat. But some of it is a bit beyond our control.
Mhm. Yeah.
When it comes to staffing.
Sure.
Well, and for the 2, for example, you'll see there's $73,000 in civilian overtime there.
Mhm.
So for example, some positions in our records section were vacant, so we weren't paying the salary. So staff, to help make up for the vacant positions, were doing overtime in those areas until they were actually staffed. So
Has that been resolved at this point, those civilian
in
positions?
some areas, yes. In other
Okay.
ones, we're still working through it. Like our quality reviewers continues to be a challenge. So
Okay.
we're still working through it. But things like court services or CPIC, those positions have been filled. So
Yeah.
that's positive. But we're also not paying the salaries then for those positions because they're vacant. But where you are seeing obviously is the increase in overtime. So this gives you a snapshot, but doesn't tell you the true financial picture of what is happening. It's just focusing on overtime. So.
Okay, thank you. Wouldn't the budget though include those positions as being filled? Even though they weren't filled, or would it not include them being filled? Like when the budgeting is,
Budget, yes. So the
should
budget will,
include them.
the budget will show that we have our authorized, for example, like 4 file quality reviewers, right?
Yeah.
But we're not going to be paying salaries on those positions if there's no person occupied
Sure.
for whatever time period.
Yeah.
is. But we do have work that still needs to be done in those areas. So we're
Okay.
trying our best to achieve those goals, but
Okay.
they're being done through overtime. So, yeah.
Okay,
They are funded.
So I
Most of
think
them-
what he's saying is that we might not be even over budget because there's a funded role that's
yes,
not doing it, but they're doing overtime. And
Yes.
it might still be within the allocated budget.
Right,
Like that,
right,
this
right.
is just a snapshot of overtime, not of the budget.
right, okay, yeah, that's helpful to understand it that way.
Sure.
I think it will also be helpful for us to understand, I know we've talked about the impact of new positions on overtime, and we've had a bit of a back and forth about whether there is a true impact on overtime when we have more positions filled. So it would be helpful to see that in actual sort of when we have those people in those positions and being paid, how does that impact the OT budget? That would be really helpful to be able to equate somehow.
Yeah.
If we could.
and it's unfortunate that Jacqueline's not here.
Yeah.
Again, I spoke about the different categories of overtime.
Yeah.
The systems that we have and through the city, it doesn't allow us automatically to break it down.
Right.
Really the one that would be impacted would be in patrol where there's a vacancy where, the shift is running short because of a last minute sickness or illness.
Yeah.
That's just a small piece of it.
Sure. Yeah.
The rest of it really is, a lot of it's beyond our control. Call out, for instance, this is a little bit within our control, but it was a strategic decision. We did spend approximately 47,000 in overtime at the downtown core to supplement the site funding. I'll talk a little bit about that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, and I don't know, Jacqueline might be able to answer. I don't think the overtime that we are able to reclaim back through grant funding is reflected here, but she'd be able to speak
Okay.
on that.
So
That might be hard to do though, insofar as like right now, all the patrol watches are fully staffed. So I don't think we're seeing much, if any, overtime. But that could change throughout the year. So it might be very hard to tease that out for that specific piece of overtime.
Okay. Just something to keep an eye on because it's a significant number. And as we're increasing positions, I would hope to see a change in that number. I know it's not equal to equal, but it would be good to continue to keep an eye on that. Thank you. That's all I have on that item.
Does anybody else have anything? True, good. All right, can you, would you like to move for?
Yeah, I'll move
receipt?
receipt of that of 2.3.
Second. All in favor? Carried, great. Kelsey, 2.5. Yeah. LCOB 320.
Yeah, so I should direct my questions at Andrew. I don't have any issues with the policy in general. I think it's well laid out. I appreciate the privacy considerations as you always do. I just wanted to understand, is this technology that is commonly used in other departments already that we are now adopting? And also, is there like a significant cost associated with this, or is it relatively negligible? I just don't know the technology at all.
Yeah, well, I can ask Sanjay. Sanjay had more knowledge on this.
Yeah, as far as departments go, this primarily came to our attention with our dog handlers and our emergency response team that were using these devices. I can't speak on behalf of other municipalities except the problem Delta 50 exists. So that's sort of essentially evolved from. As far as the funding that went for this was purchased through grant money. So we applied for it through our smoke filtration program. So the money was received from that program to purchase so it didn't come out of our departmental funding.
With fluid technology has been around for 20+ years, and we've been placing it in different contexts. For instance, the traffic safety helicopter has it, right? We used it. We've seen it in search and rescue drones to help find missing persons, etc. So it just it's now something that we actually have for ourselves.
Thank you.
And there's been Supreme Court rulings surrounding the use of their area, so it's been tested in court and everything. There's guidelines.
And I assume that the policy is outlined.
Yes.
Great.
Anybody else? Kelsey, do you want to move receipt?
Yeah.
Second, favor. It's carried, great. 2.6, that's me. What did I have to say? Oh, I know. So appreciate the ongoing inclusion of when the Circle program was engaged. Am I in the right report? Yes, I am. Yeah. I guess what's not clear to me is, so from the numbers, maybe you clarified, so apologies, but my take on this is that so there were two, like, let's just say December, there were two Circle involved calls. Can you clarify whether that's when Circle asked the police to attend, or whether that's where the members had outsourced Circle?
This is when it's either that they have made a referral to Circle. It's only the police data, not Circle's data. So, for example, I extracted from the template that the members put on the file, basically say referral made. I will then go in and read the actual report to see what happened. And some of these, it's here's the contact info, please contact. Other times, Circles actually came out and attended on scene,
right,
and met with the person. So,
okay,
but this is police data only, not Circle data.
Right.
So,
I guess my question is, like, how can we, is there a path forward to shift the number of, there's 48 in December, 48 Mental Health Act apprehensions. Is there a way to shift that work more, like, over to Circle in it more? I'm not articulate. Is there a way?
Question.
Is there,
So-
like, it's just still feels like a substantial amount of, and these were apprehensions, so obviously they ticked off criteria under the Mental Health Act for apprehension. And it is also possible that sometimes Circle calls could have led to an apprehension, but were dealt with in a different way, depending on who arrived, right?
It is possible.
It is possible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm just wondering
Most
if,
of the ones that I've seen that I've reviewed and been identified here are police referrals to Circle, not vice versa, where I've seen Circle referred back. And the form is skewed towards, did the police make a referral to Circle?
Yeah.
Versus who is the complainant in
Yeah.
the file, so. Yeah, it depends. I mean, like, you've noted apprehensions, and apprehensions obviously are something that are subject to being a police officer, right? And we have the abilities to apprehend and take someone there. There are different avenues within the Mental Health Act to which people can make, can make their concerns made to judge or justices and others who then issue forms or doctors, but that's, I won't go down that road. I'd like to have that right in front of me. But right now, the way the legislation is, that police are the ones doing the apprehension. So until Circle has the ability to do that, or training to be able to do that, we are the default people. So
Yeah.
until that happens, so.
I guess my question is there a way for us to increase engagement with Circle to avoid apprehension? So I think that, once members arrive on scene, there are, there's a list,
Yeah.
and if these things are happening, then there's an apprehension. If it's a social worker and a peer support worker, those, there still might be suicidal ideation or whatever it is, all those check marks.
Yeah.
But because it's being handled through a healthcare lens,
Yeah.
the outcome might be different. And so just noting that this still, continues to be a major, resource, intensive for members. I'm just wondering how we can continue to kind of move, if there are opportunities to move
Yeah.
the work towards.
I think that's something obviously we've communicated and been supportive of, that we want to.
Yeah, of
believe
course,
that
yeah.
needs to be done. I think what you're seeing here, though, is a very limited scope, right? And I think that the question you ask is a challenging one, but also too, yes, we could ask, for example, Circle, how many files are they taking, right? Things that may not come across our even knowledge now, because they're just being simply deferred and dispatched to Circle, number one. Also, too, you have U.S. mental health teams and others that are, again, maybe engaged, that are more preventative in nature as well, too. You have other things at the school level, right? So school mental health, they'll prevent and be preventative in nature and proactive. So we don't necessarily see all of it, right? It would be interesting. Yeah, we could take a look at what does it look like, because I can't remember exactly how long they've been up and running now.
Yeah.
2 years approximately. Have we seen a decrease in our numbers overall in those areas? Also, to what is their workload? What does that look like? And I don't know if you were here at the time, Tasha, but we did have Circle come in and do a presentation to the board at that
Yeah.
time to talk about how much involved and what they are getting and how they're being engaged and referred. So that may be something, again, that we want to look at, those kind of maybe an annual check-in to see where those numbers are going. And so I'll chat with the chief afterwards, and yeah, I can absolutely reach out to Circle and just see what that's looking like, and see if we can maybe present a more informed understanding of what is happening right now in that landscape. So yeah.
Just to add to that, if I can, so I think the challenge, and I think this might work part of your question, is how does that police triage and or prioritize these calls? Like, so if someone calls us, it usually goes to ECOM and then it's dispatched to us. As I understand it, there's no capacity right now for ECOM to say,
No, there's
okay,
not.
this is,
Yeah.
we can triage this into a non-police response. So generally our members will attend, they'll do an assessment, and there's different kinds, obviously, of files. There's the true mental health call, where that's the specific
Mhm.
intent of the call. or a call for something else that involves
Yeah.
mental health. I'm just looking at our stats, and I do see significant reductions in our mental health related files, and also just third person attempt suicide type files. We're looking at double-digit reductions. So I can't quantify why that is, but I would suggest that might be part of it, that
Yeah.
members are attending these calls and perhaps diverting them off to other
Yeah.
resources. And I'll speak to that a little bit about our downtown enhanced foot patrols, where we did over 1,000 referrals and more social-based referrals to individuals in the downtown core. Hey, you can go here for support.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, and you know what, as we're talking about this might even not be, the onus might not be on the department, but just a wider recognition of Circle as a program in the community. I did chat with the program manager at their open house the other day, and she said that the working relationship with members has been extremely positive and
Yeah.
collaborative, and they feel well supported. So certainly it's not, there's no criticism here about how the
No,
two
no,
bodies are
absolutely.
working
No,
together. It's
absolutely
just,
understand where you're
this
coming from.
continues to be like, a big portion of members'
Absolutely.
time. And they've got, we're stretched in all the things that folks have to do. So how do we continue to, and that's on the city in terms of promoting and building awareness of the program as a whole, the city and host organization. So just something to think about.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that like apprehensions are, I think, quite a bit above the Circle scope to be able to support.
Yeah, I mean, and my point is that I think that sometimes the same behaviors are, when members are involved, it leads to an apprehension because the Mental Health Act is like, and I think sometimes with social workers and such, it doesn't necessarily,
I think so.
blend
I
in the
agree.
same,
Like police officers are probably going to default for risk management reasons to
Yeah.
probably have a bit of a lower threshold, where someone that's, obviously trained in the mental health field might feel more comfortable making more of an in the moment assessment. And it leads into something that's in the strategic plan documents that we hope to bring in, which is called Health IM, which is a provincial based program. And that is designed to assist members in making those assessments on individuals and hopefully reduce apprehensions and again, hopefully reduce processing time or time at hospitals as well, and make sure
Yeah.
individuals that need to be apprehended are getting the right supports, and perhaps individuals that do not need that are being diverted into other areas.
Awesome. Okay, if nothing else behind me, Drew, I will move receipt.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed, carried. Great. Me again, 2.10, the OPCC report.
I think Drew, did Drew?
Drew pulled the community policing
okay.
letter in Queensborough. Just generally, it's always good to see our numbers trending down on this report. I'm wondering, this sort of sparks we had a conversation with the board around when recommendations come through that Chief and Co would develop a framework on how that gets back to us. The recommendations in this report are all directed at the Vancouver board, but I think it would, if not, because it's not directly at us, maybe this is just an email or something, it doesn't need to be anything formal, but it would be helpful, I think, to know if there are any takeaways that we might want to also consider, or if we're already doing those things. Yeah, just in terms of being proactive and a bit preventative to make sure that we're not the target of the recommendations coming from these reports in the future. Yeah, does that sound sound reasonable? Okay. Does anybody else have anything on the OPCC report? I will move receipt.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed, carried. The satellite office in community policing in Queensborough. Drew.
Yeah, it's funny. I can see myself on the wall over Tasha's head. I feel like Big Brother watching. I'm just wondering if staff can give a bit of background. I admit I'm not a Queensborough resident, but I wasn't aware that there was previously a community police office that is referenced in this letter. was that the case? And can staff just give a bit of background on what that was and sort of what the timeline was around that? Because I'm not familiar with that as a start.
Yeah, so back when the Queensborough Community Center was first opened, which I think it was probably about a decade ago, there was some space allocated, small office space allocated to the police for a kind of, not a sub office, but an area where members, if they were patrolling in Queensborough, could stop in. There was a ability for them to secure their equipment in there, use the gym if they needed. There was also computer stations in there that they could access to write reports and whatnot. That office was reclaimed by the city several years ago. I can't recall the exact timeline. It was at their request. And I think we were okay with that because it wasn't being utilized much by staff because they can do a lot of that work in their car. I did have a conversation with the city staff who said that space may be available again, but it still leads to the question of, is it the best use of our resources? I do understand that community members in Queensborough oftentimes feel underserved by the police department, which I think is a product of sometimes of geography. I do want to say that members are not directly deployed. We don't have that model in place where we're deploying by zones because I just don't think we're that big. We deploy based on where the calls are coming from. But we do have members that do frequent the Queensborough area to conduct patrols. I had pulled some stats, which I don't know if I have, but basically when we're looking at some of the crime stats or calls for service stats in Queensborough, we have seen them kind of trending downward over the years. That's not to suggest that there aren't some concerns. I know there was some very specific concerns about individuals gathering in certain areas. A lot of that, though, unfortunately, was not necessarily police related. It was almost public order type or people that were experiencing homelessness in the area. I know that Inspector Kumar did go down and talk at a Queensborough Residents Association meeting and talked about some of those challenges and concerns that the Queensborough staff are facing. I don't know, when we're talking about staff reporting back regarding the circumstances which led to the closure, I would say it wasn't really being used and the business case wasn't there certainly to continue it. And then again, if there is a desire by the board or the council to fund some form of a community satellite office in Queensborough, we can certainly conduct kind of a feasibility review of that. I would suggest if that was the case, we'd also have to look at other areas in the community as well, what the needs would be based on calls for service, based on crime rates and whatnot as well.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
Sure.
that's helpful. Thanks, Chief. And then I guess my other question is more a question for the board, in that this is a letter that came from the mayor, I guess following up on a delegation from the Queensborough Residents Association at council. And what's our process? Like, I feel like we should respond to this because I think that I do hear about concerns in Queensborough, and so I'm just not clear on the mechanism for this because really, it seems like we should reach out to the Queensborough Residents Association rather than the mayor, but I'm just not clear. So I guess it's a bit of a process question for my colleagues on the board. I'm not clear where to go with this.
Sure. Well, my take, Drew. So, Councillor Campbell brought forward a motion, the motion that's listed there that was approved by council. So, I think two things are true that you pointed out. I think that we ought to reach out to the Residents Association with some information about either what the operational plan is, how how the department attends to calls, and I know that. Inspector Kumar already did that, but just reiterating the plan and perhaps some information around the original office and the closure. If the board wants to look at what that would cost, whether it do a bit of a feasibility study as the chief mentioned, I think that's at the board's discretion. Somebody could absolutely strike a motion, but I think we also need to give that information back to the city, just to close that loop. Heather, you had your.
Yeah.
edit.
Um,
And please disagree if there's a different process. that
no,
you-
I was at that meeting also, and I spoke at that meeting, and there is currently a plan in place, but it's more of a collaborative plan. It's not the police cannot solve that issue. It really is an issue of people who have nowhere to stay. So the big issue right now is that I also work at Elizabeth Fry, so we have a shelter there for women. And what is happening is there's the partners are going there, but there is nowhere for them to live. But because of the ties, they're setting up tents. But there is a collaborative approach that's happening where the city, EFRI, the police, also other members, and the Queensborough Association are working on the approach. I know when the police did give some stats, they didn't seem that it would constitute having more of a constant police presence there at that time. It wouldn't make sense, but looking at the numbers and the stats that were given. So I think continuing to review the stats and looking at the calls for service, and there is a team in place where John Stark is currently overseeing. So I think at this time there's some action being happening, but I don't think it would be at a point where we would have to look at having more of a constant police presence there. That's just my take.
I was just gonna say, I agree with Drew, we should be responding, and then the other piece is that any sort of satellite office, I think discussion could be part of our strategic plan, whether that fits for like a long-term thing or doesn't, but like as part of that work we're doing this year, I think we can have this item on the table, not to say that we're gonna put it in, but to say we would consider it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good venue, Heather, actually. That's a good thought.
So, just in sum here, then my takeaway here is that I will, so the motion reads that staff report back. I don't know if they mean city staff or
Well,
us.
I think please, because it's about the circumstance of the
Yeah.
closure.
Yeah, it sounds like though it might have been city. So, I think we should probably have a motion that, that staff provide that update to us so that we can then forward to the city. So that should probably come to the board first, just as an FYI, I think, or I could send it through, just necessarily to talk to a board meeting, I suppose. And then I will relay that information along with indication to the Queensborough Residents Association and the city that we will continue to monitor the statistics, that we will look at the feasibility and need for a satellite office through our strategic planning process, and provide, again, a reminder about the work that's being done collaboratively between the groups to address some of the non-policing issues. That sounds good. So that was a weird motion. Daisy, did you? Okay. Second. What she said.
Whatever you said.
Yeah, okay. All in favor, all opposed, carried. Awesome. Okay, so we
Great.
will
Thanks, folks.
get on that for hopefully next week. Okay, and I had pulled the statement on the end of decriminalization. I didn't know if you were going to maybe speak to that in your report, so we can wait. Okay, then I will just move receipt of that and let the other people have it. Yeah, okay, all in favor? Carried. Ongoing business. Chief, over to the chief.
Thank you very much. I'll be quick. I unfortunately didn't have a chance. I know the chair and I had talked a little bit about me providing more of a written format in these chiefs updates. I'm open to the board's discretion on that. I do find that a little bit of a challenge because oftentimes I wait until the actual board package is put together and I'm going through it and picking out pieces that I think I want to highlight if they're not brought to the board's attention. But I'm open to the board's input on that. One of the first items I want to talk about, which is an item that's generated a lot of conversation in the community, and that is issues, public order issues in the downtown core and the police's responsibility in that area. As the board will recall, in the spring of last year, there was some community concerns, I think, raised certainly to us, and we had several incidents. One of note was a female that was pushing her child. She was assaulted quite significantly. So we made a decision at that time to enhance our presence in the downtown core, primarily through foot patrols and proactive foot patrols. We sought some provincial funding in that area. We received about $138,000 in provincial funding for site funding. And I recognize Steve's here, so I don't know the acronym there. If someone else can, it's basically provincial funding to allow the police to enhance their ability to combat violent crime in certain areas. We ourselves put in $49,000 of overtime for a total of $187,000 spent having enhanced patrols in the downtown core. This translated into approximately 3,200 hours of dedicated primarily foot patrols, averaging about 60 hours per week. There were over 250 proactive generated files at that time, 70 proactive arrests, a wide range of weapons seized in the area, including knives, replica firearms, bear spray, whatnot, and a significant quantity of controlled substances also seized. And I think equally important, members completed over 1,000 what I call wellness referrals. That's engagements with individuals in the downtown core that perhaps just need assistance and need some direction. And so there's a lot of that, a lot of very positive interactions with members of the business community. Part of the plan was also for members to stop in at businesses and talk to businesses. And I just know, what are the results for us? And I'm looking at the downtown stats. Again, I don't think the police, we can always claim 100% credit when the stats go down, because then we own it when they go up. But we have seen significant reductions in Q4 for offenses in the downtown core. I'm just looking now, we're seeing aggravated assaults down, assault with weapons down, B&Es to businesses down. And I should also mention that we're probably going to be doing some media on this. I wanted to talk to the board in the open setting first. Mischiefs down, robberies down, theft from autos down significantly, and mental health related calls down in Q4, 74%. So to the questions we're talking about. So enhanced policing in the downtown core is not the sole answer, but I just want to highlight for the community that we have heard the concerns being raised. We're very active in the downtown and other areas of the community and being responsive. And we will continue to monitor concerns raised in the downtown and do what we can to ensure community safety. That is one. I'm happy to take any questions on that.
Is that your whole report?
No, I have a few more things.
Okay, I'll wait till you're done.
Okay.
I'll wait till you're done.
Chelsea, did you want to wait? Okay.
I just again want to highlight in the package statistics. We are moving to a more of a quarterly model. And in the package, you will see that in Q4, there was a 32% drop in monitored violent crimes. That's not all crimes, but that's the ones that we specifically monitor. So that's, I think, some positive outcome. What we have seen, which is a bit of a concern, is an increase in collisions, including collisions involving injuries. We've seen a number of collisions involving pedestrians in probably starting in November, December, and continuing into January. These are obviously a concern for us. Oftentimes what we're seeing this is driver-related behavior. And I just want to remind the public to please be vigilant when you're driving at this time of year. The weather conditions are not optimal and lighting conditions aren't optimal. So I think if everyone just needs to slow down, be vigilant, because we want to be cautious about vulnerable road users in the community. Decriminalization. So again, this is something that came up last week. I think everyone probably saw it. The province has elected not to renew or extend its exemption of the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, which means that public possession and consumption are once again illegal in all locations except for designated overdose prevention sites or safe injection sites. What does that mean for us and for what we're doing? Not a lot, to be quite honest. In May of 2024, the province reduced some of the exemption areas, which basically made public consumption or possession illegal in many public areas, which it wasn't before. I just note that, and I think it's important for the community to understand that while the exemptions are going to be removed February 1st, the federal Crown policy and recent amendments to the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act reaffirmed that simple possession is supposed to be treated as a primary health issue. That's not to say that members are not able to use their discretion in certain instances and conduct an arrest and a charge review of simple possession, but federal Crown has made it clear in their policy they are only going to be approving charges in the most serious of cases. I just want to manage expectations in the community that this is not a change of pace and the police are now being given free hand to go into the community and begin arresting people. We will where we think it's necessary, but again, we understand that it's not effective in the long term if we're simply arresting people, seizing controlled substances that they may possess, and then on the back end, there's no mechanism, there's no charges happening, there's no court process, there's no real system to refer them to in the moment services for addiction issues. And then if we're seizing their drugs and they're not, the core issue isn't being resolved, they're going to do what they need to do to go back and obtain further drugs. So the position I think of most police leaders in the community is, again, all levels of government need to seriously increase the upstream services for mental health, addictions, homelessness, and start working on these core challenges and these core issues that are resulting in some of the issues that we're seeing out in our various communities. And that's it.
Mary, then.
Oh, I just wanted to say, to be supportive of the idea of having a written report. Thank you for mentioning that you were thinking of doing it. I do think that as part of the package, it's better for the public to have something that they can read that's, that they can refer to. And I also think that when I'm reading the package, it would be easier for me to, consider what kind of questions I want to ask you as a response to your report. So I just want to advocate for a written report. I think that would be really important, especially for the open meeting. That's all. Everything else was great. Thank you. Kelsey?
Thank you for the update. I just wanted to ask, specifically if we're considering being very positive about what's going on in the downtown core, which it sounds like there have been a lot of really, really positive outcomes. What is our plan on a go forward for the downtown core? Like, is the site funding is done now?
Yeah, so the site funding our site funding is now been depleted. We anticipate applying for more site funding in the next provincial fiscal, which is April 1st. We're going to continue to monitor the downtown. Traditionally, at this time of year, just based on weather, we do see a downward trend in public order issues from our perspective, or true kind of police related issues. But we will be monitoring it and we will adjust as necessary. We do plan on actually doing some media on this to let the community know. I know not everybody tunes into the Open Police Board, but I think it is a net. Wanting to see what meals we're eating, our last meal. But it's a challenge that I think we're seeing right across the country. It's very complex. And while again, we've talked about this many times, it does require a coordinated effort. Police play a role for sure. I do know that people that are struggling and maybe are homeless or have addictions issues or mental health issues, they're far more likely to be victimized themselves. And that's very much at mind for us as well. So yeah, we're going to continue to monitor the statistics as we see them. And then of course we have, members are giving us feedback, and the community is certainly giving us feedback on what they're seeing. I'm always open to hearing from the community, whether it's Queensborough or the downtown or anything about the issues that they're seeing so that we can adjust our service delivery as necessary.
Oh, Drew.
Thanks, Chief. I guess my question is, or less of a question and more of a thought, and I don't know what the answer to my thought is, if it's a thought or a question. Anyway, the data sounding good, but I think there's still that push and pull between what the numbers are saying and what public perception is, or what people's experience on the street is. And I think we need to, when we talk about those things or when we put communication, I think we need to talk about those together. That while the numbers are showing that there's less of this and less of that, there's still stuff happening, and I think we need to speak to what we're doing still to address that and to manage that, because I think if we're just picking one side of that coin, I think the nuance gets lost. And I think that because when I talk to people, I do hear things from people, concerns that they're feeling, as I'm sure staff do as well. And so I just want to make sure that when we're speaking about that, we're covering both sides of that coin and both sides of that experience. I guess it's more of a statement than a.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think in every public statement or community engagement session that I attend in this area, I always do talk about that and public perception and public's perception of crime. I think it's very important. We could have stats cut in half and it's still not going to mitigate the experience of someone that's maybe been the victim of a theft. I'm also mindful of, do we have a true sense of the level in the downtown core? Do people feel frustrated and feel that there's no sense of calling the police? That's certainly a possibility. So it is an ongoing, I think we're on the right path, but we're not spiking the football or anything at this stage of the game. I think it's an ongoing issue to monitor and certainly acknowledge the public's concerns. When they're saying, great, the stats are down, but my business or my residence got broken into, that's equally as important.
Yeah.
I do wonder sometimes about the stats from transit police as well, right? Because so just recently, a friend of a friend, or one of my friends was on the SkyTrain, and the person beside her was assaulted, a random assault on the SkyTrain in New West. And are those stats reflected as part of New West, or is it only when a New West police officer is involved? Because it doesn't really matter who's responding. That still is a safety issue for New West residents and is reflected as part of the New West community. And when this came up, I hadn't thought about that, like the mix of the statistics between those two forces and how is that reflected or not at all?
So it's a good question, and it's there's not an easy answer there. We work very closely, obviously, with transit police because they're headquartered in our city. We recently just re-signed the MOU. The intentionality is that if there is a criminal offense, and Damon, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's a criminal offense, we as the police of jurisdiction have first right of refusal on that, so we should be called and attend. And then there's an assessment made. As far as the stats being gathered, in the moment, like the stats that we have, if it's just a transit police file, we probably won't have those within our system because it's specific to New West PD. But when they report out their annual crime stats, that does get coded. So if they go to an assault in New West, that would be coded on the CCJS, and Andrew's nodding his head.
Yeah.
So it would be reflective on our,
yeah,
like crime severity index and whatnot, but there might be gaps there.
It takes time potentially to be reflected.
Yes, and again, it's ideally that we're being called to attend these and make an assessment. I'm okay with transit police certainly taking files that are transit based and might involve multiple communities. That makes total sense. Or if they've come across the incident, they've done all the work, they've arrested the person. But I'm also mindful that we need to be aware of what's going on in our community. So definitely board has worked on the MOU, has made sure that our position and concerns are clear with transit. But we have a really good working relationship. I mean, they're great. They come and help us and assist us, and same vice versa.
We have before, like in the fall, I attended I believe it was a Saperton Residents Association meeting. And during that meeting too, we also do bring stats for those agencies that will be impacted by transit. So we'll go with transit stats too, in addition to ours, to be able to show the top levels of calls for service. And for example, in that one, the top 10 calls for service very similar to ours: the check and welfares, the man downs, the assistances, all those kind of social related ones. Then obviously they do have some ones that are more related to like fare evasions, those kind of things that are within that. But yeah, we are mindful of that context of what is happening that way too. But yeah, as Chief was saying, right, these stats are just our stats, so to speak. So
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, Drew, I hear that concern and point well taken, that sometimes when we're saying, I remember in the last provincial election, they're like, we brought in so many doctors, and everyone's like, I still don't have a doctor. And so, there's definitely a tension there of people's lived experiences. I think there's also a third piece. Like, I think there's what the stats are saying. I think there's, people who live and work in the downtown. their perception. And I think there also is another narrative that is, my mom, for example, would probably say it's not safe in our downtown. My mom hasn't stepped foot in our downtown in 10 years. So I do think that the stats can counter potentially just kind of this anecdotal narrative that's out there that's not actually rooted in people's actual experiences. Not to discount those experiences, but I think that there's been people do have perceptions about the downtown in particular that may or may not even go there, and that this can help shift that narrative that this is a place where you want to go spend your money and do your business and support our local businesses. Okay, so that was all based on your report, was it not? Okay, well, we'll move receipt for your report.
Are you
That'll be
moving it?
written.
The next written report. That would have been a really good written book report with lots of info. Still moved. Or
Okay.
did you move it?
I don't know. You can
Okay,
second
so
it.
moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed, carried. Great. The strategic plan update. Over to you again.
I will be quick about this only because I know that we're gonna have a larger discussion around what the pathway is forward. And what I wanted to do, because I think there's probably a bit of disconnect between the leadership team and the board with regards to the ongoing, the board's up to speed on the day-to-day operations for the most part at Prime Stats, but some of the behind the scenes work that staff is doing and our planning is doing in 2026. As I was compiling this document, I just really want to compliment the staff that are here and the ones that aren't here. I realize just how much work has gone in. I mean, 80% of probably what we do is just day-to-day operations and the administrative stuff, but there's a lot of work going on in the organization with regards to advancing various initiatives and modernizing the organization. So I'm very appreciative of the work. We were having a kind of a discussion around this, and I stopped and said, "Hey, how's everyone feeling? How's the pace?" And there was a lot of like, Sanji's got the lip down. It's going good, but I know that being a lot asked.
Look bad.
Yeah, Sanji's my go-to. I always get the censor to tell me what's going on. But yeah, so there's a lot going on, and the document. What I find, my experience with strategic planning has been. Strategic planning is easy, but it's the execution that's always the challenge, right? And I always find it's when you're actually dealing with the action items and these plans that come out with these 3-year plans, and we don't know what's going to happen year to year. So I think moving forward, I'm hoping we can be flexible, and certainly we will be, depending on what the board's needs and desires are. I think we made a lot of progress this year in some of the issues that we wanted to do. Talking a little bit about some of the board generated issues and some of the ones that are even in my own performance. We have, identified the community engagement team. They've been extremely busy this year, working very hard. Haley produced the communications and engagement plan earlier this year. She's also going to talk about our new public-facing website that's been completed and hopefully going live in the next few days. Haley's done a tremendous amount of work, very happy with everything that she's done and to advance that initiative. As we all know, we lived last year the Patrol Division Operational Review, which is an ongoing document that we have. We have assigned the extra bodies that were mentioned there to the patrol shifts, and we anticipate filling those positions moving forward. We provided the board with a staffing plan, 5-year staffing plan. We'll be bringing that back in April again, just moving forward with some changes. Again, Sanji doing some amazing work on the Art Pass program. I believe the members are today just starting out the training on that. So again, I think that's advancing the organization, and again, custodial care enhancements. We are still waiting on some information about the Rock Dock program, but we are still advancing some of the other initiatives, including gowning and the sensors. Again, translation services. We didn't really talk a lot about this, but we've modernized that. We've moved away from one service provider and moved to another, which we think will greatly enhance our ability to provide translation services in the community, which is required under policing standards. Very grateful to the board. 2025 was the year 3 of the backfill strategy. For a variety of reasons, we haven't necessarily been able to bring in all the staff that we wanted, but I'm very optimistic that that's going to be occurring in 2026 based on some other changes that have happened. And then also with regards to organizational wellness, which is very important to myself, we have filled a position. We did a bit of a reorg, which I'm actually going to talk about next next board meeting, but long story short, with the addition of the staffing and the org report, we have done a bit of an org review, and we found, I wouldn't say redundancies, that's not the right term, but we found the ability to have an org wellness position in the organization. That position is started. It's Art Volodka. He has his master's degree in psychology. He's very well versed in org wellness issues, in wellness issues in general. He's coordinating our citizen and peer support teams, and he's also going to be working strongly on the mental wellness report from several years ago, and working on that and improving overall health issues in the organization. I know we just, one of the first initiatives we did was with Nia Health, where we brought in a company that provided blood, trying to think of the right terminology. They basically had very advanced
It's
blood.
LifeLab.
Well, this is a different company, but it's similar, but they provide basically health information. I think it's 150 biomarkers with regards to health. So the idea there is to, if there are health issues in the organization, to identify those early and make sure people, many of our younger staff I'm talking, don't even have a family doctor to go to. So very excited about that, and I do hope this is going to be budget dependent as the year goes on, that we can do another mental health organizational review this year to start to compare the data from the previous one and see if they're going in the right direction. Moving forward, again, I put a number of items in there for 2026. Those are items we see. We're always open to any items the board would like to see us pursuing as well. We're again continuing our pursuit of modernizing the organization. Reconciliation is very important, and we're looking to advance that as well. And some of the other initiatives that have been talked about with regards to body-worn camera, and again, that's just feasibility and giving the board information to assist the board in making any decisions. Special municipal constables, again, this fits into a larger conversation around our cell guards, which are currently a private third-party company. I don't have an update, but the province has indicated that at some point they're going to mandate that all cell guards, custodial guards at police facilities have to be special municipal constables. And that's going to have a financial impact and a resourcing impact as well. And then again, just this upcoming strategic plan renewal, I think it's a major opportunity to align community expectations or realities, operational realities, and the long-term vision for the organization.
Right. Questions, comments? Standing ovations. Anything welcome.
I do have one comment. It's really just about wording, but I am the lead in my organization for translation and interpretation. And translation is changing written word to a new language, and interpretation is spoken language. So I think we should have the word interpretation in there, because I'm assuming you're doing mostly interpretation in your day-to-day work.
Sorry, could you run that by me?
So translation is taking the written word and putting it into a new language, like
Okay.
Chinese. And interpretation is spoken.
It would be a bit of both, I think, i.e. it's primarily
Yeah,
spoken.
but like you only have translation there, and I'm assuming you would require that service for a lot of interpretation.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would just add that with it.
Sorry to do more.
That's one piece, but I'll let everyone else go. I forgot it. I have to look at my notes.
Okay. Yeah, really appreciated this sort of like dashboard of things that are underway. Lots of good things. I think that it's really helpful for for us not to lose sight of like the bigger picture items that are happening. So thank you for that, and so glad to see so many things like being checked off. I'd like to know a little bit more about the Health IM program. It sounds really great. And then also I remember at one of the conferences, Delta was talking about implementing something that almost had like a psychological assessment component that felt like something that we should have a conversation about. And I didn't know if this was that.
I believe it is.
Okay.
Health IM is a program that has been adopted by the province, and it's now being administered by the BC Association of Chiefs of Police. So it is a strategic partnership between health and police services. And to narrow it down, it is a software that can be put onto police officers' phones. It provides a template for members in the moment to put in certain behaviors they're observing or histories of individuals. And assist them in making a
Decision
decision
support
around
tool.
apprehension. We did have very early conversations around this with the Health IM folks, with BCACP, and with Fraser Health. We actually had a meeting. There were a few background technical reasons that we weren't in a position to do it, but I am optimistic that we will be able to do that. As we all know, Royal Columbian Hospital is a regional hospital here in the community and does most of the psych admissions for ourselves. I believe the Tri-Cities, I don't believe Surrey, but it is a very busy location. So the back part of that as well is that when members are able to put this information in, they're able to transmit it directly to the psych department of the emergency room. And that hopefully is designed to speed up admission or assessment processes on their end, but that's more for them. The idea behind it really is for members to have a more objective reason for making their decisions about apprehension. And I think, Eamon, if I'm correct, other organizations have seen a reduction in apprehensions based on the implementation of this.
But not a reduction in wait times.
But not a reduction in wait time. That's a little bit beyond our control because that's the
health
decision.
system.
Yeah, and I know that our mental health unit, they are working very hard and constantly with Royal Columbian and staff there to reduce those wait times. And I believe the new psychological department is opening soon in that area, which ideally will assist in that area. Expanded facility, larger, more staff, I believe. So yeah, it's there's kind of a queue right now because the BCACP is going through organizations that are ready and health authorities that are ready to actually implement this program. But I'm optimistic that we'll be able to implement it, if not in 26, then in 27.
Okay.
But that is the program.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess when they were explaining it, it really made it seem like members would be doing sort of like a psychological assessment on someone, and for me, it felt like while helpful, to me the answer is not to have members now be psychologists. The key is to have psychologists and healthcare workers doing healthcare. And so it felt like we're stepping even deeper into the field that is not best suited to deal with this, and sort of entrenching almost the work, like the healthcare work to members. And what I'm hearing is that that's a significant workload and members don't want to be doing that work when not needed. So I guess that would be my concern with it. I'm happy to hear that it would feel helpful to members to feel more confident in their decisions, that it's leading to a reduction in apprehensions. So I spoke to that earlier around, our, apprehensions are not always necessary, and that would prove that, right? Or that would indicate that. So yeah, I mean, I see the importance of streamlining that information to, the ER or the psych department. And so I guess I'm just having conflicted feelings about it, to be honest.
I don't think it's definitely not intended to have us take on any kind of a healthcare or a psych nurse type role. The idea, I think, is to quantify what members are already doing and maybe consider factors related to apprehension they may not be thinking about. So, for instance, they are dealing with an individual that has some mental health or apparent mental health challenge, and they would go through the information, is the person suggesting they're hearing voices, and is that necessarily worthy of an apprehension? Yes, no. So it's not, I don't think, to be diagnosing individuals, but to quantify the information that they have. It also is tied into our system, and it can actually give a history of that individual as well. It's tied into crime, so that they can say this person, has been apprehended or has, I think it actually even talks about things that will set them off or cause them to become aggravated, like warning signs.
Yeah, things to be able to help.
Yeah, but third parties that can assist with, support. So I think it's a good program. I don't think it's the be all and end all. It's going to fix all the problems, but I think it will assist members and help them just kind of quantify what they're doing. My big worry always is risk and for members and risk management. And, when we're talking with the health authority, there is risk for a member not to apprehend someone and then that person goes
Yeah.
out and does something. So that's why you might see members being a little more, quicker to apprehend under the mental health act, because to not do so is taking on
Yeah,
some level.
no,
of
no,
risk.
no, I totally get that, totally get that. Heather.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I'm supportive of something like this. It's, I think, really just taking the expertise of people in that area and giving decision-making guidance to the police. Not that they're doing the work, but that I'm assuming it's just showing at the end of like the question, will say, what is the risk of this person? If they have like a certain level of score, they go to the hospital. If not, they don't. I think the more we can objectify these apprehensions, because you are taking away someone's freedom, the better. So I'm very supportive of a tool like this to help in those situations.
I guess I have two questions. One around the program itself. So I was at that conference where Delta presented this program, and in hearing them present it, it sounded like we were front loading work that the health department or hospitals or psych intakes should be doing. And I felt that set off warning bells for me. Like, we are maxed as police officers, not we, but you are already maxed out in all of the different things that are coming at you that there's no one else to deal with at this time. And so it felt to me like now police officers are going to be doing this work, as you were somewhat suggesting, of what happens at a hospital. And I was concerned about that, the way that was presented, and maybe it was just how they presented it. So that is my one comment. I do appreciate some of the other things that you've said today that I didn't hear at that session. It was really much more about, now we are psych doctors and we're going to assess these people, and then when that person lands at the hospital, we've done the work for them. And I was not happy with that process. So if it's different, that would be really good to know. And I guess the other question I have is sort of around process and the conflict that sometimes we find ourselves in, the board and the department, is like, how much input do we have on the operations? This sounds like an operational decision, but it also feels like a significant change in how policing is done. And so I just want to understand that tension. Like, where do we as the board get to comment on this kind of a program, which might have different outcomes than anticipated, versus you finding a program that's going to make work better or easier for members? And so I just want to understand how we have that discussion before things are rolled out and it's like too late to say, whoa, we have some concerns. Have we talked about these things? I guess that's the process question I want to understand a bit better.
Sure, yeah, and to your first point, I think it's fair to say that it's not adding work, because if a member apprehends someone under the Mental Health Act, they bring them to the hospital, they have to tell the hospital, well, why is this person here? So
Sure.
they're giving that.
Yeah.
This, as I understand it, will allow that process to have already happened in the back end. Like,
Okay,
what did the members observe? Why is this person apprehended? They also will be able to access their history, so they'll have an understanding who this individual is.
Okay.
To your second point, I agree. I mean, I never think that there's a bright line between operations and governance. I just don't think that works.
Yeah.
This program is provincially supported by the province, supported by BCACP. But it's certainly something that, is a bit of a shift in operations for us. And it's something that, similar to body worn cameras or RPAS system, drones, that we would bring to the board for those conversations. I mean, I don't think it's ever positive board and the chief are in this is my thing, so I think it's a collaborative discussion.
Yeah.
And I think board input was very important on the Rock Dock program from the legal perspective, because it has actually flagged for us operationally some not challenges, but things that need to be tweaked before implementation. So yeah, I think it's an ongoing.
so I guess I'm looking for that time. Like, is this program already happening and we haven't had a chance to understand it better and have those conversations, or is there still time to have that discussion?
There's certainly still time, because I don't
Okay.
even know where we stand in the queue for.
Okay, great.
At some point, we'll probably be approached by BCACB saying, hey, we'd like to implement this in the US.
Okay,
I think that would be the time we could bring back a more
Okay.
fulsome report
sure.
to the board, so that board understands exactly, because you represent the community
Yeah.
and the community will be asking you the questions, why are we doing this?
Yeah, that would be great. Okay,
Yeah,
Well,
thank
can I
you.
just add to that?
Yeah.
I think just to expand on what the chief has said is that we are already doing this work. When someone is presented to us,
Sure.
there's a concern about their well-being. We already have to do that risk assessment. Are they risk themselves or others, and consider a bunch of different factors. What this tool allows us to do is a consistent, standardized approach
Mhm.
to that assessment versus a member and their experience. You're going to get varied responses, which could lead to over apprehension, under apprehension. As the chief was saying, we don't make the right decision, and there's no, as highlighting something very obvious. I know that there's no perfect system, right? There's times we apprehend, take someone there, and possible discharges, something terrible happens, right? No one can predict that regardless. So it's definitely not taking away, but is giving us a standardized approach, consistent approach to do these, so that our members are better informed and are making better decisions on their risk assessment of whether or not to apprehend. And then, some of the other presentations, we saw two agencies, one from the island, one from the north, that presented recently. We talked with that. They were looking at a variety of different ways to reduce their mental health wait times. They just kept running into roadblocks. They just can't because the hospitals are at overcapacity, and it is what it is. But they did find a significant decrease in the amount of apprehensions, and that's how they save time. So we're actually taking there in the first place. And as others have highlighted, the significance of apprehending someone and taking their rights and that impact, right? And as the chief has highlighted, we get histories and everything to be able to help with more constructive approaches to maybe engaging with this person. So that's definitely very, very helpful. We've actually started just recently, last month, started checking off on now our templates, on whether or not the person was certified or not. So we know how many have we apprehended and what's our certification rate. Are we similar to another agency where they're getting a big reduction, or are our members already making positive decision making, and we're getting a lot certified? But it's definitely, as the chief is saying, from a risk management standpoint, I think we all believe it's a much better informed way to go, because we're doing it, and we're going to continue to do it until the system is changed. We still have that responsibility. So
Yeah, thank you. I do appreciate the standardization of it as opposed to it being sort of subjective to the person who's asking the questions with their own bias. So I do appreciate that. I just do remember that presentation by Delta and thinking, whoa, like we have enough to do. It felt very health oriented and a way to benefit the health, the province's processes. And I just felt nervous about us going down that road. So I appreciate that. Happy to hear more about it for sure. Thank you.
I'll see. Just a comment on the strategic plan tracking generally. I think I remember that this was an item that had come to us like in the past, and then I know we were sort of in transition last year and haven't seen anything like this for a little while. So I'm just hoping that we can sort of regularize, maybe quarterly, just seeing this come into the package while we're in the process of planning as well. That would be great, because this is really helpful to know what's going on. And I see your name a lot. Cedric. So thank you to everybody for all the work that you're doing in the background. That we don't have a line of sight into all of this until it comes to us. So it's nice to know what's going on.
Thank you for sharing this tracking system. And I haven't been here before, so I just wanted to follow up on the gang suppression and the approach there. And if we're working closely with CFSEU, and I know training there's ongoing annual training, and how does that intelligence trickle down?
So the gang suppression function of the organization is undergoing a bit of a change, which I'll talk a bit more fulsomely next board meeting. For staffing reasons, we have the gang suppression unit, or crime reduction unit, which traditionally had the crime suppression function, and our street crime unit, which is more plain clothes. We've reduced that into one unit. We did talk to the province because the province is funding parts of our gang suppression unit. We anticipate getting our crime reduction unit back up and running in next week, which is exciting because that will assist. We're looking at folding our gang suppression function back under the crime reduction unit. Because the provinces, and this is probably new, certainly to the two of you, I should probably step back. We received funding in 2020, I believe, to fully fund a 4-member gang suppression unit, sergeant and 3 constables. In the last 2 years, the province has flagged that they're going to reduce that funding by basically 25% each year, with the caveat that we assume that funding moving forward. What we've seen though, for staffing reasons, while we're going to continue a gang suppression function, I don't think it's going to be sustainable for us to have a standalone gang suppression unit. So that function will fold under the crime reduction unit, which is where it was before. And we've talked to the province about that, and the province is fine with that as a plan for us moving forward. Regarding the intelligence piece, certainly we have strong connections to all organizations, and CFSU being one of them. That would be more on the criminal intelligence side. So we have a civilian crime analyst and a sworn member sitting in our criminal intelligence unit. So they send out weekly, if not monthly, gang intelligence updates. As we all know, extortion related incidents are talk of the Lower Mainland. I'll knock on wood. We, so far, I won't say we haven't had any extortion related investigations, but we haven't had any shootings in that area. But we are mindful that these individuals, they don't respect jurisdictional boundaries. So very responsive and monitoring that as basically what's happening, and acknowledging that we also want to support any other organization that's struggling in those areas right now, or having a significant increase in those types of files. Those files are, again, very complicated. We've seen a lot of information coming out. They're transnational in nature, national in nature, local in nature. So very complex, and it's going to take a lot of policing resources to get a handle on it. And they're not unique to the Lower Mainland. They've been happening in Brampton, Edmonton. So very challenging what's going on. So we do have an active, though, connection with CFSU. We have, I believe, 5 seconded members that are seconded to different areas, including the gang suppression unit. It's a uniform group that they go out in the community and they're doing kind of more proactive work in gang suppression. And then the surveillance teams and the investigative teams that are doing the more high-level gang work, we have members engaged there as well.
Are there any members attending the Guns and Gangs Symposium that happens every year?
Yes, we have members attending here. And just with the intelligence piece, they also meet monthly. Our crime analysts, they go over to CFSU and they meet and discuss information.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Anything else on the strat plan? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, let's move. I'll move receipt. Second, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Excellent. The strategic plan committee update. I just wanted to have official approval of the terms of reference before we move forward with putting together the EOI to go out around some support for this. Yeah, I think also, do we need to discuss like a budget framework for that, or is that?
I think I guess that this is probably a good point for the board to decide how expansive it wants to be with regards to, like, is this a renewal or is this a complete, just an upgrade? I mean, these are the different questions about, how much does the board want to do? Because if you're going with a complete redo, that's going to involve obviously some level of external community engagement, internal engagement. And it's just, that's going to regulate your costs. I think it's very difficult. I think you put in an expression of interest, what you're looking for, and then you wait to hear.
Okay.
That's our past practice, right, Andrew? Or do you think you should put in a
consultant?
Yeah.
Yes, for the dollar amount, that's your most efficient way. And also too, you can also get it to public like BC bids. Or we're just doing an expression of interest, usually for up to 3.
Yeah, it was my intent that and I think through conversation here that the legislated community survey that we need to do this year would be part of this process. So I think there was, for Heather and Steve, just as some background, the strategic plan ended in 2024, and there was lots of back and forth about, we were going to try to time it with, first we were going to do a small update, then we were going to try to time it with the new council, then I think we've just landed in a spot where it makes sense to tie the strategic planning process to a community engagement survey that we need to do, that we're legislated to do every 3 years. And so that could just, there's no sense in those two things being disconnected. Yeah, I would think that, we would obviously consider the things that are ongoing from the strategic plan, but because it technically lapsed in 2024, that it would be more than a renewal. It would be really rooted in that feedback that we're getting back from the community. So if no one has any concerns about those terms of reference, then we can just get on our way and get going on that, myself and Heather squared. With your confidence.
I can share with you offline the process with the city for getting the
Yes.
EOI up and who my contact was and all of that.
Yeah,
So I'll share that with you.
awesome. So can someone, if there are no changes or edits needed on those terms of reference, can someone move?
I'll
to
move to
adopt the
approve,
terms of
Tasha.
reference? Thank you. Second. All right. Any more conversation? All in favor? Okay. We will get working on that and have something to report back in February. And governance committee. That says me, but it's not me. It's Kelsey.
That is me. And all of these conversations have got me thinking about how we should probably write our report. Maybe if that'd be useful for the group. I can think about that for next month for sure. So just a couple of things that I wanted to share with everybody. First of all, thank you to everybody on the board for participating in the survey and interview with the consultants at the end of last year. The consultants have now sort of taken that feedback and turned it into a bit of a board governance evaluation report, which will be shared with us in advance of our workshop. So a reminder that we have our governance workshop for board members on Sunday, February 1st. Please arrive at 9:45 to get settled so we can start and end on time. I'm sure everybody wants to be out of there on a Sunday. I will circulate the package for the workshop on Friday. It won't be extensive, but make sure you set aside some time to read the report and come prepared. So in terms of where we're at with our work with the consultants, they completed an audit of our manual late last year, and we met to sort of map out where the gaps and priorities were. With the direction of the governance committee, the first draft of priority policies that the consultants were drafting for us are going to be coming to the committee this week for review. So we will look at those, and then those will also be brought to the board for discussion. We realized that there's some work to do around policy on service and policy complaints, which was legislated to be established by April 25th. I don't actually know if we already have that policy in place, so it's on my list, Daisy, to reach out to you to see if we have something, or maybe to you, Paul, we have something in place already.
I think we have internal, like how we process it, but I think how the board processes it might be different. I don't think we do. And I do agree, it is a policing standard.
Yeah, so we have some work to do around that. Drew's going to be attending a sort of Teams virtual working group organized by the ministry on behalf of the committee, and then we will evaluate the work that we need to do and what we need to bring to the board to meet our legislative requirement. We also don't have a terms of reference for this committee. We just
launched into it.
Well, we did this committee thing is new to us here.
I was like, this is ironic considering we're the governance committee. So perhaps we will take that away as well.
Good thing.
Yeah. And then I know Daisy circulated calendar invitations, but I just wanted to flag that I think the other date that you should be holding in your calendar is April 19th for the second board workshop. So just ensuring that that's top of mind. TBD whether like senior leadership will be invited to that workshop. So I will give you as much notice as possible once we sort of see what comes out of this one. Yeah.
18 or 19?
19. Yeah. Okay, that's all for me. Unless anybody else on the committee wants to fill in anything I missed.
That's great.
No, you did a great job.
Okay, I'm just gonna kind of try to bump us along, because I know a couple people have hard stops at noon. The annual street check report.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. This dates back to 2019 when the provincial government brought in new provincial policing standards regarding street checks or police stops. Basically, they're changing the manner in which those are occurring. And we have to report out annually on street checks or police stops that members are doing and documenting. And for the basically 5th year in a row, there haven't been any documented street checks in the community. And while I haven't looked at what other agencies are at, I think that's fairly consistent since these standards came in.
Great. Thanks. I think, it's not, obviously policing is not the same as immigration enforcement, but I think this issue is really top of mind. So I think it's helpful to remind the community that that is not something that we do in practice. 3.6, the Kirkwood decision.
Do you want me to receive that one?
Oh, yes, sorry.
I'll move to receive.
Yes, thank you. Second. All in favor? It's carried. Great. And Kirkwood decision.
We'll briefly talk about the adjudicator's recommendation. So this was an incident that happened in Victoria in 2019 where Victoria member discharged Leslie Farrell. Unfortunately, the individual that was suffered to the ground died of the rodeo hair. So that went to an adjudicator to review the deployment around it. So 3 recommendations came out of that specifically for the Victoria Police Department. One was with respect to audio and cameras. The second was to do with note taking during IO investigations. And the third was to do with communications with injured parties and members of their families. So I'll briefly discuss how those relate to how we operate here in Westminster. So body worn cameras is still in the agency stages here that we're looking at it. It is in our 5-year plan. Inspector Muskirka does sit on committees that kind of evaluate how the current organizations, Vancouver and Delta, how it's working out there. So they're looking at storage costs, administrative processes, and then to review all the video. So that is in our 5-year plan, but it's not implemented right now, along with a lot of our many other agencies. Note taking during IO investigations. I think our policy already aligns with what the adjudicator is recommending, is that we do make contemporary notes along in our notebooks along with our SBOR reports. That's highlighted both in our use of force policy and our less than Parliament policy. And the recommendation was that communication with injured parties, families, or members. We do have a practice in place here that an individual, if they are injured, whether it be the use of force or just a general motor vehicle accident like the one that's happening right now, 6th, we do maintain contact with that person and their families to keep informed what's going on. And we work with the hospital staff if that person is transferred to the hospital to ensure that the family is notified correctly, and then what to do after they are released and how to better support them. As far as our members go, and also the victim assistance units are helping as well. As far as our members go, we do have the system program that looks after our members following a false deployment or any critical incident. And we just introduced our organizational wellness unit, which is through Sergeant Piwaka. So he's more engaged with respect to post incidents involving members. There were some additional findings and practices, all of which I think our police department adhere to. So training and critical decision making. All of the qualifications happen once a year, and then they're stress-induced scenarios. Note taking is gone. It is revisited again. Team tactics need to cover. Our members deploy VR with lethal force overwatch. That's recommended. It's not always the case, depending on what the situation is. Yes, that's always tried to be adhered to. Medical assessments after every deployment. The individual or the recipient of the Darwin round is taken to the hospital. Supervisor is notified. Photographs are taken. All that is documented. I think that covers everything. Are there any questions?
This was excellent. This was like,
I know I spread through, but you guys said you were in a timeline. That's fine.
yeah, no. This is when I brought the motion forward around creating like a framework of how recommendations come back to us with an understanding of what we are doing, what isn't feasible, what could be feasible. Like this is this was so helpful. I think that it is, really appreciated this report. I think it really clearly outlines to the community what we already have in place, because while those recommendations were for Victoria, people get concerned about that happening here and what would be our response. And I think this just really demonstrates a transparency of operations and process to the community, our responsiveness to issues that are happening in other jurisdictions, and a reflexivity around like what our own practices are and sharing that. So just really want to thank you for that. I think that it is really well done, and really happy to get this. So thank you for that. Anybody else? Leadership development plan. I have a lot of questions about this. I'm wondering if we defer it when inspectors.
Yeah, we could push this off to next week. I just want to flag, it is basically a thumbnail of a tremendous amount of work he's done in this area. I think there are questions.
I have lots of questions.
Yeah. Okay. First,
Yeah, I had lots of questions too, so appreciate that.
Receipt of the report for the Kirkwood decision.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, all opposed, carried. And maybe we will move to defer this report to the February board meeting.
Yeah, but there are a lot of in-depth.
And we can send them to Scott in
that
advance.
would help.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So if board members, please compile and send your questions to Jeff before the next board meeting so that he can feel more prepared to respond. Great. Can someone move referral?
So
Second. All in favor? Great.
Actually, do you want him to go through you? So he's not getting.
Avoid duplication.
Send them me.
Yeah, why don't you send them to me, and then I can take out the duplicate and then put them in themes from everybody. So if you could do that the week before the board meeting, I mean, as soon as you have them, but definitely give him, a week to respond. So I can send out a reminder for that to the board. Okay, new business. The CA.
Should be
That should
PG,
actually say,
yeah.
that should say PG. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was like, oh no, another acronym. What have I forgotten? Sponsorship invitation. So I had naively suggested that we inquire about being the lead sponsor. I did not know that there was a $25,000 commitment plus the additional policing costs required to host such an event. So I'm withdrawing my application, my support for that. I would suggest that we do not put our name forward as the primary sponsor, but wondering, looking at that package, if anyone wanted to suggest or, move that we provide sponsorship on something else, whether it's a coffee, a lunch, a whatever. Yeah.
I think in the past we haven't sponsored anything. For this specific one, we do always do something for the BC one.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to just continue down that path, do that sponsorship, but that's been the historical support.
Thoughts?
I agree.
I'd support that.
Me too.
What do you think? Do you get embarrassed when all those other crests go up and the sponsors have there's a rolling PowerPoint with all the departments?
Yeah,
we weren't on it last year.
I leave that to the point. No, I don't get embarrassed.
There are a lot of massive police services
Yes.
members of the circuit.
We're not
Yeah,
massive.
No, okay, then we will forego and put our dollars somewhere else. Okay. Perfect. Okay. I don't think we need anything on that. The BC APB, which is the BC Association of Police Boards update. Patrick is our liaison, just for information for Stephen Heather.
Yep, so I'll give a brief overview for our new members. So the BCAPB, basically every municipal police board sends a member. So we each have a member on BCAPB. And then I have an executive position. I was elected last year. We advocate on behalf of police boards to the province. So we weigh in on policy changes affecting police boards and then at some level also police services. And a lot of the work we've recently been doing is around building capacity for BCAPB. Historically, this has been, I don't want to call it an impoverished organization, but essentially that's what it's been. So we're looking at new revenue streams and a way to kind of build out the impact of the organization within the province, and specifically in terms of advocating to the government. Just some updates from our last meeting, which was in November. I think email came to you, Daisy, that the membership fee is going up a bit. I don't know if that was forwarded to the board. I don't remember.
I can check. I know that we paid, I think we paid our fees,
Okay.
but I don't
Yeah.
recall if I quoted it to you.
So it's, I mean, the fees are like $1,300 a year. It's not backbreaking, but it did go up because of inflationary costs. We were kind of like behind. BCAPB is way behind the rest of the country in terms of membership costs. Like in Ontario, it's thousands of dollars they're paying for membership fees each police service. So just had to raise it a bit to come in budget. We've in our last meeting, Katie Charlton is from the Public Safety and Solicitor General, comes to all of our meetings, and we had a long discussion with her about policy change and how a lot of us felt that the last round of changes to the Police Act that impacted boards was rather aggressive, rather sudden, and didn't allow us a lot of time for planning or governance committees to go through these things and make changes appropriately. So we kind of argue that we need next time a lot more forecasting, a lot more consultation with boards about how to phase in changes rather than just dropping them like a bomb on boards all at once and saying, figure it out yourself, like not having mayor as chair and so on. Those were rather aggressive changes, and I think there needed to be more consultation. So I think she heard us on that. The advocacy work for 2025 is finished now for all the resolutions that were passed at the last AGM, including a letter I sent to the minister on behalf of BCAPB about bail reform. So that was sent recently. There was some offline discussions about perhaps proposing a resolution for the next BCAPB AGM. I don't know the deadline yet, but it's usually March-ish for resolutions, so something just to forecast if we want to drop something in there to be passed. The annual conference is being held in Whistler this year, May 19th and May 22nd. They said last date to book for hotels and such is April 17th. I think Daisy was forwarded that information as well. I'll be attending obviously as an exec, but hopefully a couple of you can come too. It's a good time. And then we're having an in-person meeting at the JI on February 2nd, and kind of like a field trip afterwards to the JI sometimes. And I'll report back if anything stems from that. Also, last matter I wanted to raise a couple months ago, but a meeting. Ideally, I should have an alternate for BCAPB. We haven't had one for the last year and a half. When I said I was going to be on the BCAPB for 3 months, and now it's a year and a half. So ideally, someone would step up and be an alternate. It doesn't involve anything other than if I'm absent from a meeting, you would attend on my behalf, and then hopefully you'd want to do this in the future and step into this role as a director for BCAPB in the future. And again, it's interesting. You get to weigh in on public policy, kind of briefed on changes to the Police Act and so forth for everyone else. So it's interesting work. Perhaps one of our 2 new members will consider that. If you're interested, you can get back to me and formalize that in the future.
Could be open to a conversation offline to learn more about
Sure.
it before I make any commitments.
Yeah. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you for continuing to do that work. Right.
For a while.
In the interim, Patrick, I'm always happy to just step in. I think I
Great.
probably have
too.
the
So
most flexibility.
They want someone formalized because of the NDAs we have to sign surrounding policy. So ideally, we would propose a name at some point.
Okay.
Officially. Yeah.
That's good. I will send a reminder up to the board to think about that and to ask any questions.
Thanks.
The new website.
Yeah, new website launches Thursday. It has improved navigation. It has a redesigned employment section and police board section. And most importantly, it complies with the BC Accessibility Act. So the website is designed to web content accessibility guidelines AA standards. So it should be very accessible for people using screen readers or who navigate the web via keyboard. So I want to thank all my colleagues. It involved a lot of work in looking at how we explain our services and rewriting those in the clearest way possible. So I have a lot of people to thank.
If I could just again acknowledge Haley, who's really led that project, and it's been the better part of 2025 working on it. And of course, when it goes out to staff for refinements, I'm sure she's probably sick of hearing from all the different refinements, but a lot of work went into it, and I think it looks great. And I think it's going to be a really good representation, outward facing representation of the organization. So thank you, Haley.
Thanks, look forward to sit there on, whatever. 12:01 on Thursday, I don't know. Awesome, great. Okay, I will move to adjourn the open meeting.
Or seconds.
Never
Did
know.
you
I-
move it
I
when you
don't-
say-
Anyway, I should.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah, you're seconding it.
Yeah.
All in favor? All opposed? Carried.
It's like a
Great.
problem with the governance committee.
Yes, that does sound like a problem. Okay, we can adjust the Zoom channel. Let's take a 2-minute